Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you the next installment in my Diversify Your Fantasy reading little series. This is the third video I'm doing, so I will link the other two down below if you want to go check them out. And I thought because June and Pride Month is right around the corner, today we could focus on books that are written by trans and non-binary authors. And I think that especially with the times we're living in right now, it is so important to support the trans community, to support non-binary people, agender people, whatever, everything that is not like adhering to that like binary idea of gender, this like biological idea of sex and gender. We have to support this, and we have to show our support as widely and as loudly as we possibly can, not only the things that are going on in the US but also in the UK, and who knows what else is going to happen in Germany. Honestly, not very optimistic about things here either. So this is the reason why we're doing this video next, or this like little recommendation list next. Before we get into the fantasy books I want to recommend to you today, however, I wanted to recommend a channel, and this channel really for me is the go-to channel when I want some queer book recommendations, and this channel is Perpetual Pages, run by Audrey, and they are just a fantastic creator in general. I have also supported their Patreon, and I'm still supporting their Patreon because this is one of my favorite booktube channels on the whole internet, and I don't understand how their videos are not like viewed so much more. I think it's like just because of the algorithm probably. And yeah, their book recommendations are always on point. They read the majority of queer books, focusing on trans and non-binary authors. Their book recommendations are also just so incredibly well done, and when they review books, they always do it in a way that I immediately want to go and pick the book up. They manage to talk about these themes and kind of like the stuff that's in the book that's hidden like between the lines so incredibly well without giving anything away about the actual stories. So I absolutely adore their channel, and I'm begging you to go and check it out. The link will be in the description down below, and now we can get into my book recommendations. So my first recommendation is a little kind of a duology, if you want to call it that. These are both novellas, and that is Pat and Bitter by Akwaeke and Emezi. Now these are YA novellas that focus on a society that has defeated the monsters. In Pat, we follow a trans girl as she meets a creature that she thinks is a monster, but it actually is a monster hunter, and it tells her to prepare for hunting a monster because there is a monster in their community. And the second novella, Bitter, is a prequel where we follow the mother of the main character from the first book. Both of these are absolutely fantastic. For me, Pat is always kind of like the ideal utopian society where we got rid of all the oppressors, and it's also about vigilance in a way, because if you tell yourself that there is nothing bad left in the world, then it's very easy to overlook when the bad stuff starts creeping back in. Next, we have my favorite fantasy duology that I read last year, and that is the Radiant Emperor duology by Shelley, Parker-Chen. So again, I know I've mentioned this book a lot recently, but it is one of my favorite series. So we have She Who Became the Sun and He Who Drowned the World, and in this duology we follow our main character, who has always been told that she doesn't have any destiny, like her destiny is to be nothing. while her brother's destiny is to achieve greatness. However, the brother dies and she steps into his life, going to kind of a monastery, getting an education, and then slowly climbing the ranks of this world. This is a Chinese-inspired historical fantasy that is not very high on the magic. However, it is extremely good if you like kind of like political machinations, cunning characters who are absolutely ruthless. And just the character work in this one in general is absolutely fantastic. Next up, we have The Deep by River Solomon. This is a book that I've read quite a few years ago, so my memory isn't quite that clear on it. However, this is a novella as well, so something that you can squeeze into your bigger fantasy reads quite easily. In this one, we follow kind of like a mermaid story. However, the idea behind these mermaids is that they are the descendants of pregnant women who were thrown off slave ships during the slave trade times. And so this deals with the kind of like history of this terrible time, and also just like race in general and like colonialism and all of that. So as I said, my memory not quite good on it. I definitely am down for a reread very soon, but I remember that the writing in this was absolutely impeccable, and while I didn't like absolutely love the story, it was still an interesting thematic work for me. Next up, we have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This is a YA fantasy that is also a little bit romantic. We do have a little romantic side plot in it. And in this one, we follow a kid who basically wants to summon the ghost of their cousin. However, instead, they summon the ghost of their enemy, if you want to call it that. And then they have to kind of figure out what's going on in their world together. This is a very bad description of this book. I'm so sorry, but this heavily deals with gender and being trans and having like a certain identity assigned to you that you don't feel within yourself, because in this world, the men are kind of expected to have like one kind of magic and the women are expected to have a different kind of magic. Our main character, however, is not drawn to the magic that is assigned to them. So overall, this is like a really fun romp. And while I did have some issues with the plot, especially because the whole like idea is to go looking for that cousin, and then the romance kind of takes over and we forget about the cousin for quite a while. But if you don't mind that and you just want a very sweet way romance in a fantasy setting, then I would definitely recommend Cemetery Boys. Next up, we have another fantasy with a romance subplot, and that is In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens. Now, I desperately need to read more F.T. Lukens. I think all of their books sound extremely fun, but this one I did actually read, and this is more for the people who like kind of like seafaring, like oceany stuff, which I definitely do, because we're looking at a prince who is going on a little adventure. I'm not quite sure anymore if he ran away or whether it was something he was supposed to do and then it kind of got off the rails. Don't remember that little detail. However, he meets this other guy who is like very mysterious and maybe not quite human, and it's about them, a plot that they have to face. And it's just really, really fun. Like, this is the perfect time to read a book like this when it's like summer and you're like in the sunshine, maybe at the beach. You need a book like this to read. Next, we have a book that goes more into the horror territory, and that is Burn Down, Rise Up by Vincent Tirado. This one is a book I've read a little bit more recently, so it's a little bit easier to talk about for me. And in this one, we follow a teenager who is looking for their mother. The mother got like this mysterious illness, and the teenager is convinced that it has something to do with something like supernatural that is going on. This one dives deep into the history of the Bronze and the terrible fires that have happened there, and it brings that history to life in this like very interesting kind of like eerie, creepy setting. Next up, we have another book with a kind of romantic subplot to it, and that is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. I absolutely love this novella, and in this one we are following a woman who has made kind of a deal. It's a deal about her soul, and the person she made the deal with is coming to collect very soon. However, there is this kind of like serial killer on the loose, so our main character gets the chance to investigate this serial killer, and for that get more time. What I really enjoyed about this one is kind of the noir vibe to this fantasy setting. We also have magical beings like angels and demons, I believe, and then the romance we get in here is already established. So our main character is in a romantic relationship, and I think the way that their relationship was portrayed and the feelings they have for each other was very, very beautiful. And in general, this was just a very, very fantastic fantasy novella. And for this last one, I want to recommend two books by the same author. I enjoyed one more, but it is less fantasy, I guess, so I'm just going to talk about both. So the one I absolutely loved was Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. Now, this is a strange book. It definitely has horror vibes, and we are following a woman who returns home to, her family, her mother. The father was a serial killer, and it's all about like this woman kind of reckoning with being back in that house and what home is. And it's fantastic. It's absolutely strange, and not a lot of people will get it, but the people who do, they really get it. And then the other book by Sarah Gailey I wanted to quickly mention is Upright Women Wanted. Again, this is a novella, and this one has a Western feel to it, but it is set in a fantasy world. Now, one of my issues with this book is that I wanted to know more about this world. We don't really get a lot of answers. This book is also very sapphic, as we follow these kind of like female post ladies, I think, and they are traveling through the lands and doing stuff and getting into trouble that might lead to like shooting a lot of guns. So I had a good time with that one, and I would definitely recommend if you're into like Western kind of fantasy. So these are the books I wanted to recommend to you. However, I do have 3 bonus books that are from my TBR. With all of these, I have read books from the authors before. However, those were not fantasy books, but they have done fantasy books. So that's a little bit like a long way to say here are 3 books on my TBR that I'm super excited to read. First off, we have The Queen of the Conquered by Kacen Callender. This one I have heard a little bit mixed things about. I think this is a very heavy read. This is also a duology, and it's already a little bit older, but I think it deals with like colonialist stuff. So yeah, I definitely want to read this still, but I think I have to be in a very specific mood for it. Next up, that one I don't really know whether it is fantasy, but it definitely has some like fantastical elements to it, and that is Patricia Likes to Cuddle by Samantha Allen. I have read Samantha Allen's nonfiction books and really enjoyed them, so I definitely want to try her fiction as well. And last but not least, a series where I am desperately waiting for the last book to drop so I can read the whole series, and that is Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I got that right. So this one has witches and it sounds fantastic, and it is very British, so I'm so ready to give this a go. I have read Juno Dawson book before, didn't love it, but I think this series is just right up my alley. And with that, we come to the end of this little recommendation video. I hope there was something that you're now interested in. Definitely let me know in the comments if you're planning on picking any of these books up. Some of these were like absolutely amazing 5 stars for me. Others more like 4-star reads that I still think about a lot to this day. So I think you can't really choose a wrong book here. All of them are amazing, and I hope you give them a try. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!